What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the JjLee Hockey Show. This is JjLee, obviously, and it's been a very eventful week in the NHL, so let's get to it. Starting with the Four Nations face-off ended on Thursday, and the championship game was amazing. In the first period, we saw Nathan MacKinnon score from Thomas Harley and Sam Reinhart at 4:48, and it was MacKinnon, kind of a typical MacKinnon goal, skating around the zone and showing off his skating and his release while in motion. Hellebuyck was screened by multiple guys, so you really couldn't blame him there. But it was just kind of a classic MacKinnon goals with a combination of great skating and a great shot. Brady Tkachuk did tie though at 16:52 in the first period from Austin Matthews. It was a gritty goal. Matthews took a shot, a wraparound. He took a wraparound shot on the net, and Brady Tkachuk got the rebound. Just like I said, gritty goal. You can't. Not all goals look pretty, so. This was one of them, just a definite, but Tkachuk's obviously a very gritty player, so basically, I'm trying to think of what word to use here. Basically, the type of goal you expect to get from Tkachuk. Then moving on in the second period, USA gets the lead on a goal from Jake Sanderson from Matthews and Werenski. It was another gritty goal. It started from, I'm pretty sure it was Matthew Tkachuk winning a puck battle, getting it to Dylan Larkin. Larkin gets it to Werenski, and Werenski takes a shot from high in the zone. Then Matthews gets the initial rebound, still doesn't go in, but Sanderson gets the second rebound and puts it in. So two very gritty goals for USA, which, like I said, not all goals are pretty. Sometimes as long as you get the puck in the net, that's what counts. And sometimes you gotta just keep trying because you can't always get the beautiful goal or beautiful opportunity. Canada does tie though, however, at 14 minutes in the second period. Sam Bennett from Mitch Marner. It was a nice pass and play on the rush. Bennett got past, I believe it was Adam Fox, and got past the defense to receive the pass from Marner and puts it in the net. Then no score in the third period, and in overtime, Connor McDavid ends and wins the tournament for Canada from Marner and Makar at 8:18 in overtime. It was just McDavid was left wide open right in front of the net, and he's going to convert on that more times than not. You can't leave Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, wide open like that. It was a bad play by USA. USA had the good scoring chances in overtime that they got stopped on. Bennington was amazing, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say USA deserved to not lose that when they left Connor McDavid wide open right there. He's going to score on those way more times than not. I thought it was a great game, though. A lot of people have debated who deserved to win, who was a better team, but I think either way, it was very close. The underlying numbers kind of favor USA more, but either way, the underlying numbers were still very close. It was a very close and competitive game as expected. These are the two best hockey countries in the world facing off, so it did not disappoint. This tournament as a whole, though, had, I think, 3 overtime games. Multiple of the games were still very close. Or actually, more of the games were very close than not. I believe, I want to say USA versus Finland, and I forget which other one, but let me check real quick. It was USA versus Finland and Canada versus Finland were the only two that weren't close, I'm pretty sure. Like, it was a very competitive tournament, and it was a huge success for the NHL. I really enjoyed watching it. But Nathan MacKinnon wins the MVP, which I think it was deserved. I think McDavid definitely could have won it too, but MacKinnon really came up big. In the final 2 games. So I think him winning it was justified. But like I said too, I think it could have gone either way between him and McDavid. Moving on. Just trying to make sure I got all the Four Nations thoughts down. I was also going to mention my list I made a list of the best players in Four Nations. And I said, in my opinion, the best, I made this list on my Instagram, but go follow me, please. On there, it's my username is JjLee_hockey. Again, that's JjLee_hockey. But my list was in my opinion, the best player during Four Nations was Connor McDavid. Then I had Nathan MacKinnon, Sidney Crosby, 4 Zach Werenski, 5 Brady Tkachuk, 6 Mikael Granlund, 7 Matthew Tkachuk, 8 Jake Gensel, 9 Jacob Slavin, and 10 Erik Karlsson. Obviously, McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby were all amazing for Team Canada. Zach Werenski had 6 assists. He led the entire tournament in points, but I will say getting 6 assists without getting any goals is kind of hard to put him above a guy like some of the guys like Crosby or McKinnon. I know he is a defenseman. Defensemen usually are like the quarterback of a power player, just like they kind of stay back a bit. But yeah, still amazing. But I would still put guys like Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid above him. Brady Tkachuk at 5th. He came up with some big goals too, but he also just did so much other than just scoring. Like he obviously just has a grit for these big games, and he really came up big. And as far as winning puck battles, winning the plays, like the gritty goals, setting the momentum in the game. Obviously, in the first game against Canada, he was one of the guys who got into a fight off the opening faceoff. So just did so much both with the puck and without the puck. 6 Mikael Granlund, he really balled out when it came to Finland's final game. Of course, Finland still didn't make the final championship game, but they were it was clear that they were not as good as all the other teams, and Granlund really was easily the best player. 7 Matthew Tkachuk, he was amazing too. He would be higher if he didn't miss the final. He missed the third game for USA and most of the final game. I know he did play, but he played I think the first period. But he, just like Brady, both the Tkachuk brothers just did so much as far as both scoring and everything, but he also did so much without the puck, winning puck battles, setting the momentum, the tempo. Obviously, I said Brady was one of the ones who got into a fight in the first USA versus Canada game. Matthew was the first one to fight, so setting the momentum, and it was a type of situation, the type of game for the Tkachuk brothers to shine. 8, I have Jake Gensel. He came up big, obviously, for USA in the first game against Canada, scoring 2 goals, and then 9, Jacob Slavin. He's the type. We all know he's the type of defenseman where he doesn't put up the crazy point totals, but anyone who watches him will know he's got such an amazing defensive play. His stick position is always great, breaking up opposing plays. And I mean, you kind of have to watch the games to know, but anyone who watches the games will tell you Jacob Slavin was amazing defensively. And then number 10, Erik Karlsson. He looked a little like his old self. Put up 3 points in 3 games for Sweden, and so. I feel like this is a pretty generic list, but I just thought I'd share that list that I posted up for my Instagram with you guys. And then I'm just trying to make sure now that I've said everything I want to say for Four Nations before I move on to getting back into the NHL. I think that's it. But just goalies were amazing too. Hellebuck, Binnington really proved a lot of people, including me, wrong. I'm still not sure how much I trust him moving forward, like in the regular NHL season, but he really did come up big for Canada in this tournament. Especially, I mean, I think his performance in the final game was kind of overshadowing that he was a little shaky at times earlier in the tournament, but he really was huge for Canada in the final tournament, or in the final game, in the championship game. All right, moving on now, because there's been a lot of other news that came from the Four Nations face-off, so I'm going to get into that now. Charlie McAvoy's now injured. He had a shoulder injury, and then he got an infection from it. And there's been multiple sources now that have reported that the Bruins were not happy with how USA handled it, which, I mean, makes sense. He got the injury at first, and then we found out a few days later that he got the infection, so we don't really know what happened behind the scenes, but it makes sense that something could have definitely happened that would make USA unhappy. I mean, make the Bruins unhappy. Now they're saying he might be out for the rest of the season. Multiple sources have said, so we'll see what happens. But that'd be a huge loss for the Bruins, especially because it was reported by Connor Ryan the other day that Hampus Lindholm will likely be out for the rest of the season too with a fractured patella. This season, Lindholm's only played 17 games, 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points, and just not I mean, the Bruins have already been struggling all year, but not having their 2 best defensemen for the rest of the season would really hurt them. And I think you kind of have to say chances are they're going to for sure miss the playoffs if these 2 are out for the rest of the season. I mean, they just aren't the team they were a few years ago. Remember in 2023 they had the historic season, but you look at Pastrnak's still elite superstar. He's one of the best wingers in the league and everything, but Marchand's still good, but he's not quite what he was a few years ago. His points have gone down. He's still decent defensively, but he's not the 2-way Selke level guy that he was a few years ago, which, I mean, he is 36 now, so that's not super surprising. They don't have Bergeron or Krejci anymore. I mean, you could tell last year they really were missing those 2. They did bring in Elias Lindholm this year to try and fill the role for at least a solid top 6 center, but he's not lived up to expectations, so they're still pretty weak in the center position. Pavel Zacha they have, but he's not a true number 1 center either. Like they've been ever since Bergeron left, they've really been lacking to find struggling to find another number 1 center. And you can tell it's really hurting them here, especially now that Marchand's also regressing. Swayman's not having his best year. That's definitely going to hurt them. And even still, the tandem of him and Korpisalo was obviously not as good as the tandem of him and Ullmark. That was the best tandem in the league. So they've lost a few key pieces over the past few years. And you've also got guys who aren't having their best years this year. So it does make sense to see them struggling. Like I said, Pastrnak's really the only elite piece to this team right now. Outside that, everyone's kind of having a down year, regressing, or is injured. Moving on, this is related to Four Nations, but it sparked a lot of people being upset. Quinn Hughes was unable to play for USA. Obviously, he was initially deemed not able to play for the tournament because he was injured, but then they said that he could have played in the final game against Canada, and it does make sense because as much as I wanted to see him play as someone rooting for USA, it does make sense why he wasn't allowed to. Basically, the rules stated that another USA defenseman, because they already lost McAvoy and everything, but they're saying another USA defenseman was going to have to get injured or get sick or whatever, not be able to play in order for Quinn Hughes to be eligible, which people are mad at, but it does make sense because he's not able to play all tournaments. So does it really make sense for him to be able to play in the final game? Kind of like with what people want with LTIR. Obviously, that's been a huge topic the past few years, ever since Tampa's 2021 Stanley Cup run, is if they couldn't play all season, then they shouldn't be allowed to play in the playoffs. I think this is kind of thing, if he's not able to play all tournament, should he be allowed to play the final game unless USA really needs him, they don't have anyone else? So it makes sense, especially because I don't believe I could be wrong, I don't believe he's playing for Vancouver coming back from the break. Let's see. Yeah, he's not playing for Vancouver right now, so clearly he's still not fully healthy. He was just going to play for that game because it was such a big game, which makes sense for him to want to play in that game and try and get everything he has. But it also makes sense for him to say, no, you couldn't play all tournament, and now you're still not going to play for this NHL team coming back. You don't just get to come and play for the final game like that. So yeah, it's a shame because USA probably could have won if they had Quinn Hughes. I mean, who knows what would have happened? Not having Matthew Tkachuk for the majority of the final game hurt too. But it was understandable why they wouldn't let him play. Speaking of the Tkachuk brothers, though, there's now reports that Matthew Tkachuk might be out for the rest of the season. This was reported by Renaud Lavoie. I might be mispronouncing that, but yeah, that's going to be a huge loss for Florida because they're obviously the defending champs and they're still a very good team, but their defense, I mean, they lost guys like Montour. I know Montour's not doing well this year anyway in Seattle, but they lost a few key pieces from last year, and seeing him, and so now not having Tkachuk they're really going to be a much weaker team this year in the playoffs than last year. They're still a good team now, but they're not going to be as good as they were last year, which obviously most defending champions are not as good as they were the year that they won, or like they mean like what I mean by that is they do lose some pieces. It is hard to keep all your team together and also to get lucky because to win the Stanley Cup, not only do you have to be a good team, but you do have to get some luck, get lucky bounces. But another big thing is injuries. If you lose a key player, then it's really hard to win the Stanley Cup. Like so much has to go right, and it's hard to get lucky like that 2 years in a row and everything. Like most years you will have a key player get injured at some point, and this time around it looks like it might be Kachuk out for the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens. If Florida can win without him, it'll be a great sign for them because I could still see him maybe coming back if they make it to the finals again. But otherwise, I'm not really high on Florida without Kachuk because he's just been such an important player to them in the playoffs. Like I've said, his gritty style really fits the playoffs, the playoff hockey requirement. So not having him will really hurt the Panthers. But then we're still talking about the Kachuk brothers. So Brady, now it was reported by Andy Strickland that Brady Kachuk might possibly leave Ottawa to play with Matthew. Or they're saying he might want to leave Ottawa, and they're saying if he does, then he might be trying to go play with Matthew Kachuk in Florida, which this was reported by Andy Strickland. And I mean, you can't really blame him because this is Brady's 7th year in the league, which is crazy to me. I still remember watching him get drafted. It's crazy that it's been 7 years, but 7th year in the league. Senators have yet to make the playoffs in his career. They are currently second in the second wildcard spot with 62 points, and they might finally make it back to the playoffs this year. That would be amazing to see. But if they don't, then I really wouldn't be surprised if Brady requested a trade. As for him going to Florida, Florida would obviously want to. They obviously would need to want him. Like they wouldn't just because he's being traded. Florida has to want to give up assets for him, not just to get assets not just assets for Ottawa to give them, send him the other way. Because I will say that when everyone knows a player wants out, usually the return's not as great. So that might be a case if Brady Kachuk is traded, but Florida's still going to have to give up assets to clear the cap space for Kachuk. So it depends on how much they really want Brady Kachuk, if they really want to bring him to Florida, if they really think that it's necessary to bring to Florida. So yeah, it makes sense that Brady wants to go play with his brother, but even if he doesn't go to Florida, I think he still might request a trade from Ottawa if they don't make the playoffs this year because he is fed up with losing, obviously. And I mean, rightfully so. Senators, the past 2 years that people have been saying this is Ottawa's year to make it back to the playoffs. This is Ottawa's year, and it never happens. It looks like it very well could happen this year, but if it doesn't, then I could see him requesting a trade for sure. Next we have Marc-Andre Fleury is a milestone. He currently is now second all time in games played. It's just been, obviously this is his last season, but what a remarkable career he's put together. 1,045 games played, 573 wins, 270,779 saves, 76 shutouts, a .912 career save percentage, and a 2.60 career goals against average. Also, add on that he's won a Vezina and 3 Stanley Cups. I don't like using Stanley Cups as a way to judge an individual player, because it is a team award, and obviously it's like last year he didn't do as much. It was more Matt Murray, but still, and just so many accomplishments in his career. Just easily a Hall of Famer, and it's a shame it's ending this year, but what a career he's put together. We also got some news on Minnesota. The Wild reported that Kirill Kaprizov might be out of the Minnesota lineup for, quote, longer than originally expected. This season, Kaprizov has 37 games played, 23 goals, 29 assists for 52 points, and Minnesota's currently in the third Central Division spot. So obviously he's been a big loss for them. He's going to continue to be. I had him winning the Hart before the season. That's obviously a bust. Like, you can't miss that many games and still win the Hart. But he's obviously the best player for Minnesota. He's the heart and soul of the team. I think that, like I said, that they are in the third wild. I mean, they are in the third Central Division spot, and they're currently 34-19-4. and 9 points ahead of the second wildcard spot Canucks. So I think that as long as they still stay a decent team without Kaprizov, they will be good, which I think they will be because they do still have a good team other than Kaprizov. They've got other guys like Matt Boldy, Zuccarello, Brock Faber, Philip Gustafson's been having a great year, so they do still have a good team without Kaprizov, even though he is their best player. So I think as long as they play solid down the stretch without Kaprizov, and he's back in time for the playoffs, I think they'll be fine. I don't think this is going to cause very many issues for them. But yeah, that's about it for like the news, like as far as these updates go and stuff. But I do also want to touch on the return to regular NHL because we had the Four Nations thriller, but the regular game back to regular NHL hockey, while it almost felt kind of weird because it had been so long since we watched the NHL teams, but it did not disappoint. On Saturday, the 22nd, the first day back, we had like 3, 6, 9. Sorry about this. 3, 6, 9, 12, 14. So 14 games, 28 of the 32 teams are playing. And we had so many blowouts and upsets. Like my Caps beat the Penguins 8-3, which was amazing to see. You had a blowout there. The Wild beat the Red Wings 4-3 in overtime. And keep in mind, the Red Wings had 2-0 lead. The Wild overcame. So you had a good comeback here. The Flyers beat the Oilers 6-3. That's an upset. The Sabres beat the Rangers 8-2, which with the way the Rangers are struggling this season, I'm not even sure how much of it was an upset, but I wouldn't call it a huge upset. But still, that was the definition of a blowout. So another blowout there. The Kraken beat the Panthers 2-1, upset. The Stars beat the Devils 4-2. That was one of the more, like, I guess, less newsworthy games. It was not saying it wasn't a good game. I didn't watch it, but like, the Stars and the Devils are both good teams, so it wasn't an upset or a blowout. But next one we have is the Predators beat the Avalanche 2-1. That's obviously an upset. The Ducks beat the Bruins 3-2 in overtime. That's, kind of an upset, but kind of like the Rangers, the Bruins haven't been as good this year as they usually are. So I'm not sure I'd say it's a huge upset, but the Bruins are still definitely supposed to be a better team than the Ducks. So it definitely was an upset though. The Maple Leafs beat the Hurricanes 6-3, and they were up I believe 4-0 in the first period. So another, I'm not sure I'd call 3 goals a blowout, like a full-on blowout, but I guess it is. Like it's a decent sized margin, and for them to be up 4-0 in the first was insane. The Canadiens beat the Senators 5-2, which the Senators are supposed to be the better team this year, so that's another high scoring game. That was kind of an upset. The Blue Jackets beat the Blackhawks 5-1, another high scoring game. I would say though that is kind of expected because the Blue Jackets have been a much better team than expected this year. They're not like the same near the bottom of the league team that they were the past few years. So still a high scoring game though. The Jets beat the Blues 4-3 in a shootout. And then the Kings beat the Utah Hockey Club 5-3. And the Golden Knights beat the Canucks 3-1. So just a lot of games to come back to, and so many blowouts, so many upsets. It was an amazing day. And the fun did not end on Saturday because on Sunday, the Caps beat the Oilers 7-3. The Rangers beat the Penguins 5-3. The Red Wings beat the Ducks in overtime 5-4. The Lightning beat the Kraken 4-1. The Blues beat the Avalanche 3-1. The Devils beat the Predators 5-0. The Maple Leafs beat the Blackhawks 5-2. The Stars beat the Islanders 4-3. The Flames beat the Sharks 3-2. And the Utah Hockey Club beat the Canucks 2-1. So not as crazy of a day as Saturday, but still a day full of great games, and obviously a big day for the Caps. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I'm now just gonna play some music for a bit, take a break, and I'll see you in a few minutes to talk about the Caps news, because there's a lot I want to talk about the Caps. Obviously, those who follow the Caps will know that there's been a lot to happen within the past few days. All right, welcome back. And as I said, I'm going to talk about the Caps now, because which I usually do on the show, but there's a lot to talk about right now because they've come back. They obviously did not have anyone in Four Nations, and people are questioning how they'd look coming back. Would they be rusty? Would they be well rested? And I think we got the answer here. First, they beat the Penguins on Saturday 7-3. In the first period, Ethan Frank scores at 5:13 in the first period from Mangiapane and Sandin. Letang then ties it at 18:21 from Malkin and Tomasino on the power play. Then in the second period, Ferravari gives the Caps a lead back 2-1 from Duhaime and Radish at 1:10, and then Crosby ties it again though from Raquel and Carlson 5:36 in the second. So it's still tied now, but then this is where things get crazy. Chychrun scores from Dubois and McMichael at 10:38 in the second, and it was a nice goal by him. He kind of just took, he as a defenseman, he brought the puck up to the net through his zone and scores. He's just been doing everything this year offensively. I've liked his defensive game too, but he's what addition he's become for them, because then he scores less than 4 minutes later at 14:17 from Dubois and Van Riemsdyk. This one was a shot from the blue line, and it was not really like super powerful shot. Like I think he said he was kind of surprised it went in, but the Caps were now suddenly up. They scored 2 goals in less than 4 minutes or Chychrun scored 2 goals in less than 4 minutes, and now they're up 4-2. And it didn't end there, because Protas then scores at 14:25, like literally 8 seconds later from Sandin and Carlson. They literally, like, off the face-off after the second Chychrun goal, Protas goes and scores. Then Wilson from Ferravari and Roy from at 18:05. And now suddenly after the second period, the Caps were up 6-2, and it was just crazy. I could not believe what I was seeing. I literally asked the question, what is the second period? What was the second period? Because it was insane. And then in the third period, Caps still scored more. Strome from Radish and Dubois on the power play at 13:11. Then Heinen does score for the Penguins again from Tomasino and Kevin Hayes at 14:22. But by this point, the game's getting close to the end, and it's still 7-3 Caps. It's pretty clear the Penguins not coming back here. And then Brendan Duhaime from Matt Roy at 17:19 in the third period. It was just a crazy game. All 6 Caps defensemen score for the first time. So all 6 Caps defensemen score for the first time in a single game since November 21st, 2015. We're talking almost a decade ago. And it just feels like everything's happening this season. Like they're having one of their best seasons points wise, or point pace wise. So much is happening. They've got Chychrun having one of the best seasons as a new Caps defenseman in franchise history. Thompson's having an amazing goalie season. It looks like they finally found their goalie. Ovechkin has been doing really great for them. About to break the goal record, which we'll get to as well. But yeah, just so many young guys coming up, so many veterans still playing good, like Ovechkin, Carlson, Wilson. Like I said, it just feels like everything is happening this year in their 50th anniversary season. Just what a year, because the fun did not end on Saturday. On Sunday, the Caps took on the Oilers, and in the first period, Draisaitl scores first for Oilers from Nugent Hopkins and McDavid on the power play at 1:42. Wilson then ties it though from Dubois and Roy at 17:15 in the first period. Then Chychrun gets the Caps the lead on the power play from Wilson and Strome at 19:36, so right before the period ended. Second period, Ovi scores from Strome and Protas at 8:53. Ovi then scores again from Chychrun on the power play at 18 39. Then McMichael scores from Carlson and Protas at 19:45. So another 2 quick goals there. I remember watching like Chikrin holding the puck, and I think it was McMichael to the right of him and Ovi to the left, and I was just kind of like, I'm talking about the Ovi goal right now, by the way, the second one on the power play. And I'm thinking maybe Ovi did not look the most. It looked like maybe he could, the Edmonton defenseman, I forget who it was, could have blocked off a pass to Ovi. So I thought maybe he was going to go to McMichael, but then he goes to Ovi, and Ovi, classic goal for Ovi on the power play, just puts it in that. Then with the McMichael goal, they carried the puck to the net, and they were passing. They made, I forget how many passes they made. I probably should have looked at it, but before coming on here. But they made so many passes, like it was like 3 or 4 passes, and I thought that they were overpassing for a minute, because I was like, usually when they pass that much, it ends up getting picked off, like they're trying to do too much, but it ends up working out here. They just confused Pickard so much, and McMichael eventually had a wide open net to put it in. Then in the third period, Nugent Hopkins does get the orders on the board again from Arvidsson and Hyman, but by this point, it's now but like, I mean, by this point, it's now what, 5-2 Caps. Like it's like 5-2 Caps by this point. So it's pretty hard for the Oilers to come back. Then Strome gets the Caps on the board again, 6-2 from Protas and Carlson at 10:38. Jeff Skinner does score unassisted from at 15:05 in the third, but it's now 6-3, and Ovi scores the hat trick unassisted, empty net, 17:22. So now Ovi has 29 goals in the season. That was his 32nd career hat trick, and is now tied for 5th all time with Phil Esposito in hat tricks at 32. He's now the first player in NHL history to score over 200 goals in 3 different decades: 245 in the 2000s, 437 in the 2010s, and 200 in the 2020s, which is insane. And the biggest news of all, he now has 882 goals, and he's 13 more to pass Wayne Gretzky all time for the all-time goal record. And it just feels so crazy that we've been talking about this for years. When I got into hockey, like in 2016, like it's shortly after they started, he already had over 500, and people were starting to ask around like 2017-ish, 2018-ish, where, could he potentially pass Wayne Gretzky's goal record? No one really thought much of it then yet, because it was still a long way off. And then when he scored 600 in 2018, that's when people started talking about it a little more. I started to really get into that question, asking that question if it could happen. But a lot of people still didn't think it was going to happen, or they're like, he might, but it's going to be really hard for him, or it's still a long way off. Because keep in mind too, he was 32 at the time, and we really weren't sure how he was going to age throughout his 30s, because a lot of people were expecting him to really fall off in his 30s and stuff, like a lot of players do. So they were like, he's got 600, and people still were calling him the greatest goal scorer of all time at that point, just because of the era he played in, but he's played in. But a lot of people still were very skeptical if he was really going to catch Gretzky or not. Then in 2020 he gets his 700th goal, and the once again we're back on, like it's really starting to heat up now. Like he could catch Gretzky. But then the following season in 2020, so basically the 2021 COVID shortened season, he kind of had a down year, and everyone's like, yeah, he was 35 at that point. A lot of people were like, he's regressing now. He's probably not going to catch Wayne. But then his age 36 season, scores 50 goals, just has a huge bounce back year, scores 50 goals. I wouldn't say it's a huge bounce back year, but people thought he was regressing in 2021 at his age 35 season. So then in 2021-22, in his age 36 season, he does prove them wrong, puts up 90 points in, I think, 77 games, 50 goals. And that's when he passed, that season was when he passed, in the first game of the season, he moved into 5th place all time in goals. And in March, he passed Jaromir Jagr for 3rd all time. So he was now, so he with his 767th goal, so he was now third all time in goals, and that's when it started to get to where everyone was back on the great chase. Like, okay, he's probably going to pass him now, or it looks like there's a good chance. Then in 2020, at the end of 2022, he passed Gordie Howe. He scored his 800th goal, and then like a week later, passed Gordie Howe, scoring his 802nd goal, which I was at the game for that. That was an amazing moment. But that's where it was like, okay, it's just Wayne now. He's chasing, and we knew and that's by this point, everyone knew he was going to break the record. Like even last year when he was having a down year, everyone thought he was regressing, and got to the point where it's like, okay, if he doesn't pass it by the time his contract ends, he'll still be really close. He's not going to retire until he gets it. So just all this, and then he comes back this year and plays really well, turns back the clock again, and at age 39, and it became clear he was going to break it this season. Even when he got injured, he came back from injury. Everyone got questions about, as far as this season goes, got questions with when he got injured, but then he came back playing really well. And everyone's like, yeah, he's going to break it this year now. And the whole thing the point I'm trying to get across here is it just feels so crazy that after so many years of speculation, after debating whether or not he was going to get it, anticipating it and everything, like we've been talking about this for years. It's heated up more and more every year, it feels like. And it just feels so crazy that now the time has actually come, like it's actually upon us now. And, it is really exciting, but it feels like it's going to be kind of bittersweet because we've known for a while that, you know, when he gets it, he will be close to the end of his career. I think he will still play next year, even if he gets it before the season. But still, like, point being, he is near the end of his career now, and you know, sadly, the goal record it'll still be a lot more exciting and joyful than anything else. But I think it might just be me, but I do feel like there will be a little bit of kind of a bittersweet feeling there when, you know, we're so excited he gets it, but like it just feels like it's like so many years of like the excitement come up to this, and it's going to come and go it's going to come and go in the blink of an eye, and then we'll be like, okay, he's now, you know, there's nothing more really. I mean, there's still going to be more stuff that he could chase, but the big thing he's chasing is now accomplished, and he's just playing out the rest of his contract now. It will be a emotional moment for sure, but I still can't wait to see it happen. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah, that I mentioned the injury he had this year. He missed almost 20 games from injury. I believe it was over 15. I think it was, wait a minute. So if he was to play every game for the rest of the season, he'd have played 66 games. So basic math here. Yeah, so he missed 16 games from injury, which the fact that he recovered from a broken fibula in that much time is amazing. Like it was just over a month, or like about a month and a half that he missed. And then since coming back, everyone thought maybe he won't be as good or he'll lose some of his momentum, but he has 14 goals in 23 games since coming back from his injury. He now has 29 goals, 17 assists for 46 points in 41 games this year, and is on pace to finish with 46 goals. 27 assists for 74 points in 66 games. And remember, he's 39 years old. So this is just insane that he's doing this. It's incredible. And I don't think there's much more to say. It's just mind blowing to see this happen. And I'm just mind blown to have watched the Caps the past 2 days. Like they really, like you watched them against Edmonton yesterday, and they had so much puck possession. Like there were times where they were in Edmonton's zone, and you would have thought they had power play when it was even strength, because they were just passing that well, keeping possession of the puck that well, getting chances. Like they just kept Edmonton in their zone so much that, and Edmonton's not a bad team. I mean, I know they've been kind of shaky their past few games, but they're not a bad team, and the Caps just dominated them yesterday. I was speechless. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was so hyped up, but I was also like, I was kind of lost on what to say, because I thought they were going to come back well rested, but I was not expecting them to, as good as they've been all season. I still was not expecting them to come back and completely blow out, especially back to back games. That's really hard to play in, and they just completely blew out both the teams that they've played. It's incredible, but I'm loving it. We've also got some other players doing well. Tom Wilson now has a new career high in goals with 25. And this season, he's a great story too, because everyone was worried about him last season having a down year. People thought is he starting to regress a little early? Because last year in 74 games, he had 18 goals, 17 assists for 35 points. But then this season, this season, he's silenced all the critics and stuff, proved them wrong. In 57 games played, he already has 26 goals. Wait, is it 25? I have 26 here. I'm not sure. I think. Hold on a minute. Could have sworn he had 25 right now. I know that's his new career high, but did he score another one? I'm trying to remember. There were so many goals the past 2 days. They had a total of I believe 15 goals the past 2 days. So anyway, I'm pretty sure that he sits at 25 right now, which is a new career high. 19 assists for 45 points, just 35 in all of last season, 74 games. Now in 57 games, he has 45. So great year for him. Alexi Protas too. This season has 57 games played, 23 goals, 27 assists for 50 points. And it's amazing to watch him as well, because I still remember him coming into the league and coming up in 2021, and his first season he had 33 games played, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. Basically like a bomb 6 forward coming up and down, because remember, he was not a high draft pick either. He was in the 3rd round, 29th pick, so 91st overall in 2019. No one really expected him to become what he's become. Like he came up, and I figured that I hadn't really heard of him, so I figured, he must kind of be I figured he was just kind of like a guy, one of those other guys we were just going to see up and down for a while, and maybe make a solid bottom 6 role, but didn't really think he was going to become a star, like a top 6 forward. Because the following season, he did improve in 2022-23, 58 games played, 4 goals, 11 assists, 15 points. I mean, still like 3rd or 4th line numbers. Not really. I mean, he made the roster. He was a little more consistently on the roster, but still not really showing that he's going to be this great player. And then last season, 2023-24, 78 games played, 6 goals, 23 assists for 29 points. That was a step forward for sure, but I thought that, he was playing like a really good 3rd liner now, maybe like a solid like middle sixer, I thought that his full potential was a middle sixer. I thought he could get a little better, but I didn't think he was going to get that. I thought that was getting close to his full potential, but no, this year he has 50 points in 57 games. He's been a really good first liner for Ovechkin and Strome, or second liner with Wilson and McMichael, Dubois, and it's they've been switching lines up a lot this season. Point being, he's been an amazing top 6 forward, and I'm loving it. It's a great story, but it's just he looked like he was good. He was going to be good if his first he was just like net. I mean, he was almost a 4th round pick, so he looked at first like he was just one of those up and down players. Then he started to look like he could be a decent middle sixer, but I don't think anyone ever expected him to become a top 6 forward. Even last season, I said I thought his top potential. I thought his full potential was a top 6 forward. I mean, a middle 6 forward, not necessarily a top 6 guy or like a first liner. So, what a year for him! But I think I'm just about out of time. Thank you for listening again, and I'll see you next week. Hopefully my Caps continue to do well, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening.